Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today to talk about the Scout class as it exists and performs inside of the Battlefield 1 Alpha. The Scout or Recon class, as it's been known over the years in the franchise, has also been one of the most talked about and controversial classes in the franchise's history. It's, sort of been infamous over the years, you could say, whether you were being called a spot scope or a bushwiki or a long distance dastardly bastard. The class has seen a lot of changes for better or for worse. I want to preface this whole video though by saying the Scout class in Battlefield 1 is in a really good place, guys, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we get into BF1 Scout class, let's jump back to Bad Company 2, because I think that's the last time we saw or I should say the first time, that we saw a really significant change to the way that people played the Recon or Sniper role. Because we saw the implementation of proper bullet drop physics, which made the class really, really fun. On top of that, though, I think there were a lot of elements that preserved that role as actual reconnaissance. You guys remember that? Like, when the recon terminology actually meant what it meant? It didn't just mean shooting people at 5,000 meters? Yeah, that was back in the days of Bad Company 2. Could you still engage people at long range? Yeah, but the best recons, the best bushwookies, the best spot scope noobs took those names and they wore them as a badge of honor. They knew exactly where to stand on game modes like Rush. They knew exactly where to be on a map like Erica Harbor, where they could get the best lines of sight to not only put damage and kills on the enemy team, but also to support their team simply by spotting important targets. It was a wonderful thing, and I really, really enjoyed sniping and playing the recon role in Bad Company 2 because I felt like not only was I a cool dude getting kills, but I was also supporting my team. That was a great feeling. Jump to Battlefield 4, and things went completely south. It was rough. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to give players insanely high magnification scopes like the 20x. But what did you think that was going to encourage? Did you think that they were going to do some, long to medium range reconnaissance and really help their team capture the objective and take the point? Or did you know deep down inside that they were going to sit on the very edge of the map? That they were going to go to those mountains that you decided was a great idea to leave in the game as actual play space and shoot people at 3,000 meters and do so miserably, while all the while not supporting their team, because that's the only thing that scope options like that ever encouraged. It was terrible. And then they threw a rangefinder into the mix, as if we needed those people to have any more reason to sit at the edge of the map. It was terrible. I never understood those design choices. It was the idea of making that class feel really empowered and badass, but all it did was ruin its place on the Battlefield class roster. Step away from that muck and those terrible memories. We survived, guys. It's okay, because we're here today, Battlefield 1 Alpha, and guess what? Someone found a dictionary, and they actually know what the term scout means. You can actually play a scout in Battlefield 1. And you can play the role where you're actually doing some scouting. That's what makes it so good this time around. Obviously, you still have a sniper rifle. You still get to shoot people at medium to long range. But there's a big part of this class that is genuinely about scouting and supporting your team, and that is why I love it. Before we get into the mix, let me give you an example of the playstyle that I was really starting to fall into inside of the alpha, which unfortunately is going to be ending on July 18th, guys. So I'm really trying to soak in the game time and get some footage for you so I can make some more discussions. Medium to long range would be my engagement distances. More often than not, medium range, just outside the objective that my squad was trying to push. So I would sort of do this connect and disconnect formation with my squad. I would roll together, whether it was myself, with some randoms, or myself with my brother and some randoms, and we would push to an objective. Say we're going to take Edward at the center of the map, which is Quinton's Scar. Really great map, by the way, guys. This is one of the best maps I played in a Battlefield game in a long time. It has that sort of Erica Harbor to it, if you will. Like, I'm gonna remember Quinton's Scar. I really love it, and I hope that this isn't sort of a, this is the single they put on the radio and the rest of the album is crap, because this map's really good and I hope we see more like it. So we're gonna push to Edward. I'm not gonna go directly into that objective. Say we're attacking it, or we're just getting in there to help defend it. I'm not gonna sit on the objective. Obviously that's a silly thing to do. I have a sniper rifle. I can't really support my team in a CQC situation. So I'm going to find a location just outside of it. In fact, there was a log located, I think, in the direction of F, which I think was east. I'm not actually sure. I would sit at that log usually. I'd kind of survey the area, and I would start to put out some spots. I would start to maybe deal damage on any targets that were inside of E or that were pushing into E while my team was defending. And I wouldn't focus so much on kill shots and headshots. I would focus more on damage and body shots. All I'm worried about is helping my team get additional damage on target. If I can land a kill on somebody who's wounded, that's great. But I know going for headshots, unless the person is standing still or you're crazy, crazy good, is going to mean that I'm going to end up missing because I'm not that good at sniping in Battlefield 1 right now. So I would land a lot of body shots and really be able to support my team. Now the big kicker here, of course I can spot people with my eyes and with my scope, is the flare gun. So the flare gun is one of two pieces of equipment available to the scout class in the alpha. We're going to see a lot more, and I'm very interested to see what they implement outside of these things. But the flare gun allows you to fire a flare up in the air, which spots enemies in the area just on the mini-map. This is a huge support role tool. It's much like the spout scope in Bad Company 2. I really hope that people start calling me a spot flare noob. I miss the days of being called the spot scope noob. There was nothing more satisfying than seeing someone get really pissed off because I spotted them as they were about to try and, stab my friend, and then my friend turned around and hit him with the shotgun. So it's kind of like that with the flare. Obviously, only on the mini-map. It's not like they're actually being spotted in physical life. So I think they found a really good balancing point. I don't know if DICE, the developer, actually looked back at the spot scope and was like, that was a good idea, but how can we make it a little bit more balanced? And I think the flare is the perfect answer. Like, it's a super smart piece of design. And I know it's based around, like, hey, they actually kind of did things like that in World War I. I don't care. As a gameplay implementation, it works great, and I'm giving DICE credit for that one without a doubt. So that's, a big part of, like I said, what makes the scout class actually about scouting. And it's satisfying to play the class in that way, to be that medium range guy, engage targets. Okay, we took E, I'm going to regroup with my squad, let's push to the next objective. And what I started doing on the Quentin Scar map over time is I started finding like certain buildings and certain locations where I knew I was going to have a good line of sight depending on where the enemy team might be spawning from. So I've never played the scout class or the recon class with so much knowledge. Usually it was just like, hey, shoot guys at a really big distance. Now, the way the maps are designed, or at least the way Quentin Scar is designed, I would look at like an objective like F if we were taking E, and I would be able to say, okay, well, they're probably going to spawn on F because F is right there. It's got a clear line of sight to E, so let's position myself so I can engage targets as they come down from F into E. Super, super cool. It's just really, really great piece of design there. Now, the thing that really alters the scout class in Battlefield 1 compared to previous classes are the limitations that have been set in place by DICE for the scout class. And some of these limitations are due to the technological limitations that existed during World War I. So primarily, we have our scope technology. A 6x scope on the marksman variant is the biggest zoom that I saw in the alpha. That's great. The second part of it is map design, as I said. There's not a lot of areas on the map where you're like outside of the map. That was a big issue with Battlefield 1 and even Battlefield 3. There were too many areas of the map where they allowed the player to go unnecessarily. And that's where the snipers would take up positions, like hiding over weird cliffs and ridges where you couldn't actually shoot them. It was all glitched out. It was all a damn nightmare. That's not the case, at least with Quentin Scar. Anywhere on the map that you think you're safe, you're not. Some of the areas of the map where you can do the longest engagement range and have the longest lines of sights are almost guaranteed to see you get stabbed in the back by a shovel or by a hatchet. So I like that you constantly have to be aware of your surroundings. Something I'll admit I haven't been very good at in the alpha. I get really caught up in trying to shoot people and then I get stabbed in the back and then I get teabagged because I'm a sniper. The goal is kill as many of their guys as you can before you get teabagged, because then the teabag doesn't taste so salty. I mean, if I kill 10 of their guys and he teabags me, it's like having a nice cup of Earl Grey. I'm totally down with that. Now, one of the biggest limitations outside of the technology and, of course, the map design is dynamic weather. Dynamic weather, in the case of Squint and Scar, comes in a couple variants. We've got beautiful sunshine, great for sniping at the best of distances. We've got rain, which is a little bit rougher. You can still, do all right, but your visibility is definitely lowered. And then we've got the marshmallow fog. This super dense layer of fog that you could pretty much put in your hot chocolate that gives you a visibility of maybe 50 meters. I don't really know the distances in BF1, but that's my assumption. It's super low, and a 6x scope isn't really going to be that much use anymore. You're better off dropping to a 4x, or if you want to get real feisty, do a little bit of wet work, you're going to go ahead and switch over to that iron sight variant of your favorite bolt-action rifle, which means you're hardcore, and I give you the hardcore badge of honor, because let's close out, guys. Don't leave. We have a lot more to talk about. I know you're not supposed to say that. I need to stop saying that. I'm really bad at that. Let's close out, though, by talking about the iron sight variants of the sniper rifles. So there are only 2 of them available in the alpha. One was on a lever action, which I didn't care for, and one was on a big, juicy bolt action, which I did like quite a bit. A lot of you guys are really looking forward to using iron sight bolt action rifles. It's what you think of when you think of World War I. It's what you think of because maybe you played Verdun. Here's the thing. Battlefield's a different experience. A lot of you are going to be able to recognize that. The maps are more dense, they're more, you know, detailed. There's a lot of stuff you have to deal with in terms of, you know, actually getting line of sight with the tiny little iron sight. The scale is obviously a little bit bigger, and you're dealing with bullet drop. The last time I played a game where I was like, yeah, bolt actions, was, you know, Call of Duty 2, World at War, Battlefield 1942 and 1943, Medal of Honor maybe. These were games with much smaller maps, with much less detailed environments, without anything called dynamic weather, and without bullet drop physics. So playing with a bolt action iron sight variant rifle in this game is a really hardcore thing to do. Is it still a lot of fun? And yeah, it's incredibly rewarding. And the people who are going to be able to pull off kill shots with those things are going to be good, and people are going to hate them so much. They're going to be accused of aimbotting and everything else under the sun. The thing is, it has its limitations. You really can't reach out and hit somebody in the same way that you can with a 4X or a 6X, and I think that's kind of the way they wanted it. I'm not saying that you can't, but it's not reasonable. Let's put it that way. Where I think the iron sight variant is going to be really good are in those dynamic weather situations where you're dealing with the fog. Because it's important, I think, to have a scout roll on your squad when the fog rolls in. In the case of Quentin Scar, being able to pop a flare in the air and get that information on the mini-map in a low visibility situation is massively beneficial. You know, it's a good class to have. But I think you're going to want to run that 4X or go with that iron sight. Like, you know, that's going to allow you to really... I think when the fog rolled in, you know, the distance of visibility was perfect for the iron sights. At least that's what I found. I didn't get to get that many kills in it, and I barely have any footage of it because I honestly suck with it. But there are going to be people who are really good with it. It's just a matter of relearning the bullet physics too. If you played a Battlefield game previously, when you hop into the scout class, you're going to try and lead and you're going to try and adjust for bullet drop in the ways that you did in Battlefield 4. This is a completely different beast, obviously. Different weapon, different map scaling, different bullet drop physics, different scope technology, different everything. You're going to have to adapt to it, but at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it, and I think, guys, the Scout class is in a damn good place. Obviously, it's a completely different story when it gets put out into the wild and the full game releases, but I think we've got some great limitations and boundaries put in place by DICE. You know, like I said, the map designs, scope technology limitations, and the fact that the tools given to the Scout class actually allow them to scout things. It's crazy, right? I'm looking forward to playing more of this class in the full game. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what other sorts of equipment and gadgets we get for the Scout class. I like the flare gun. The K bullets are interesting, you know, soft target armor piercing bullets. Not really sure where there's going to be a use for those or how people are going to start to really utilize those in the full game. But I'm hopeful that any of the other pieces of equipment and tools that are added to this class are focused around letting you actually be a Scout. DICE, please. No 40x scopes, no 20x scopes. I don't want to hear about any experimental scope technology. Leave it at the 6x. Let the Scout class be the Scout class. If you guys have any questions for me, anything I didn't talk about in the video you'd like me to answer, feel free to throw it down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will scout you later.